What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Burning the Red Shirt, your CFF weekend only podcast, where we release apparently only on Fridays and Saturdays these days. Hopefully, you're going for a walk, beautiful weather day, and listening to Andrew P. Katz and myself, Chris Kay, chat about college fantasy football. And speaking of college fantasy football, I wanted to ask you, Andrew, you're a card collector, right? You like to dabble in the hobby. Baseball feels like the cards that people collect because, I don't know, baseball cards were always just like the thing. It's like the national tradition. Are you collecting anybody right now, or is there anybody that you're like, or have you pumped the brakes on card collecting, or is there a certain player or team that you're like, you know what, I'm back investing in?
I haven't bought anything in that long. I've been bored enough lately in the quote unquote dark days of the calendar year, post CFB, pre-baseball. I refer to that as the dark days in my household. So I've started to kind of pull up the eBay app and look through some of my saved searches. I've got 6 mega boxes of the Zion and Ja Prism that are on ice that I keep checking to see how they're trending, to see if it's the right time to list. Feel like we got to wait for Zion to drop a few more LBs.
He's healthier and better, though. He's like trending in the right direction right now, right?
Yeah, John hasn't shot anyone lately, so that's good too.
That's always good. Yeah, that's always a bonus.
And then I got the Baron Davis PSA and BGS saved searches to see if anything's interesting. There's been I can't imagine spending $180 on a card at this point, but there's a Baron that PSA 1-of-1 card that's like got 6 different signatures on it that's been going, like, I think it finally copped a bid and sold, but it was cycling through like the 30-day windows of like ending and relisting recently that had my eye. But I haven't bought anything in a few years. I tried my hand at the speculative, like, individual player buy on the way up and then sell type deal, and I was horrible at it. I don't know. I thought I would be better at it than I ended up being, but I'm really bad at it. During COVID, I was so close to pulling the trigger on like thousands of dollars worth of Jared Kelenic cards, and we saw that worked out. If I was buying now, I'd probably be buying Wyatt Langford stuff. But I don't know. I'm really bad at this game. What about you?
It's funny you say that you've been. I guess let me back up a second. For those that don't know, Andrew's he is a card collector of Baron Davis. That is that's like his guy. So Zach's guy is Ben Wallace. Like, anytime a Ben Wallace card pops up, Zach shares it with us, and it's the most ridiculous stuff sometimes, but it's great. And then Andrew's is Baron Davis. Mine is Riley Green. I don't have anything super fancy. I have like a first Bowman or 2 auto, but just number variations. But yeah, I haven't done too much. I have a couple Colt Keiths that were interesting, but he feels like he's going to be a good player, not like a guy that you sell for thousands later on. The only guy I'm looking at right now, there's 2 Tigers guys that I like to collect Tigers prospects, and we're actually finally decent at prospects. So Kevin McGonigal, these are high A players, so not a lot of early in the game. And then the 2 big left-handed hitting first basemen that the Tigers have, Tyron Lorenzo and Jose Briseño. Have you ever heard of those guys?
No.
So Lorenzo is one of the guys that we got in the Jack Flaherty trade last year, and he just has been smashing. And then Briseño is just another catcher first base type that just big. One of them is comparable to what Alonso. What's the big first baseman for not the big DH for the Astros, lefty Jordan. Yeah, baby Jordan is the hope. But yeah, so I figured I've been looking at those cars on eBay, so now I'm I was curious if you had been dabbling in anything.
No, it's extremely cool that Jack is back though in Detroit.
Dude, it never happens like that. Trade away a guy as a rental, and we didn't even this is now a baseball podcast. We didn't even we wanted him back, but it was yeah, we're fine. And then he just knew that he wasn't going to get any money elsewhere, so he just came to us. So yeah, it worked out great.
Yeah, I'm getting into weeds in baseball stuff. I got my my keeper league draft coming up. We'll start slow draft in a few days, but I'm putting everything in motion. I just sent out my annual inquiry to. He's part of the CFF community. Not going to name names because you know how it is. You never want to give out any info on who's actually good at their stuff. To get thoughts on late round safe hold targets. I've been putting some futures in for baseball because I'm that bored. I played every single player that FanDuel put up under on their K prop, figuring pitchers will get hurt, and that'll be hopefully profitable for me. And then played a bunch of like win total and division type stuff too.
Okay. So I guess we should talk college fantasy football at some point.
We can.
I loved one of my favorite tweets of the week was your Air Force quarterback tweet.
Did you see the Zach Gibson one though?
Let's start with the Air Force one, and then we'll get to the Zach Gibson one. Tell everybody about your Air Force tweet. It was centered around the quarterback not being on the roster anymore for some reason.
Yeah. I don't know. If I was like serious about anything regarding social media, maybe I would have actually tagged RotoWire in it, since I just grabbed their news blurb and didn't give any sort of credit or whatever. But like, we're not monetizing here. Free use, all that good stuff, right? Or fair use. That's the moniker that everyone uses to basically say like, hey, I'm going to steal your proprietary content, not give you any credit for it, and I can't get in trouble because I'm not monetizing it. I think that's right. So that's kind of what's going on here. But RotoWire dug up from the local Air Force beat writer, if I can even call him that. Like, he's one of those guys that, like, I don't know, every now and then you get a nugget from him, I guess, but like I would like a little more.
There's no such thing as an Air Force beat writer. There's just
he part of like what is lacking in that regard probably comes from like it feels like that program doesn't give a lot of access, does a lot of misinformation type stuff, but basically it would be good to read the article, because I think that there is appropriate context on like how much speculation there actually is here. The way he writes it up is like not through the lens of like, hey, I'm at spring practice, here's what I'm seeing. It's I assume no media members are allowed within a few miles of spring practice based on how Troy Calhoun does stuff. But he wrote that like, hey, basically what I'm hearing is the quarterback Quentin Hayes, who, when Air Force finally got things rolling in the back half of the seasons, one of the switch changes that they made was actually letting this guy take the keys to the Falcon, to the jet, and run the offense. Like the offense started to look like how it was supposed to. They were actually like moving the ball. Like, yeah, I would assume that if you like just looking at the play-by-play, right, it felt like their success rate type stuff was like, oh, they're actually getting what they should on every play. They're not just basically moving backwards and like doing dumb stuff and then being forced into throwing the ball from the option. Like Quentin Hayes had the jet rolling, the Falcon rolling, and so things were looking up coming into the offseason. But I guess based on this secondhand, third-hand report from the Air Force beat writers, he's not at spring practice. There's questions in terms of his availability for the fall. So it's just funny though, when I was hitting out with my my swipe of that screenshot was basically like, okay, a couple years ago, the athletic dude who covers the G5 had the honor and privilege of actually speaking with Troy Calhoun, and Troy fed him all this bullshit about like, man, if we could just get to November and we could get some healthy guys back, all our best players are hurt, like we just want to make a bowl, and then by game one, everyone's good to go. They're just an absolute machine. Like there's no one missing time. Just total garbage being fed to media member. This is I don't know. This is like pretty weird, right? Like, why is this guy not on the roster? Like,
so he's on the roster. He's just not practicing. I misspoke.
He's on the roster. He's
on the roster. Yeah, but he's not practicing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I don't know.
Liam Zarka is taking reps, and so is Josh Johnson. In-depth research has shown me that Liam Zarka does not have a picture on the Air Force roster page. Always a good sign. And then Josh Johnson's picture looks like you just said the stupidest thing in the world, and he's looking at you like, why would you say that? Like, how dumb are you? So please take a look at Air Force's roster for Josh Johnson.
In the article about this, I think Sark is referenced as a guy who previously played defense and now is kind of like moonlighting at quarterback, which I remember when I was looking through their roster earlier in the year, they had a guy who was listed as QB/DB. And I was like, oh, this is like what I want to do with NCAA 25. So I was like, oh, man, could it actually be happening? But it's a different guy. Sark is actually listed as a pure QB. They have a different player who is listed at QBDB who has not been mentioned in this initial write-up.
Doesn't get better than Air Force. It truly does not. Yeah, McGuire Martin is the guy you're thinking of, junior from Texas. His squadron is I love that they do the squadron. Loose Hogs. Loose Hogs is the squadron here. Let me ask you this. Which squadron would you be? I'm going to list off some of them. You tell me which one you like the most. Loose Hogs, Deuce, Jedi Knights, Night Riders, Pink Panthers, King Rats, and Animalistic Sky Raiders. Shadow 7. Which one would you be?
When you're picturing this, what is squadron like? We're all flying the same plane?
Yeah, same patch. You know, I just think of. This is like when my wife watches an emergency room or like hospital show, and she's like, "That's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong." I imagine I'm gonna do this to people that fly planes and stuff. But I think of the movie everybody loves with Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
and everything about that is just what I'm thinking about right now. What is the name of that movie? Before we move further,
I don't know. I've never seen either of them though.
You've never seen it? Oh boy,
Top Gun.
Top Gun. I just imagine Top Gun right now. I just, how they all do things with their cool nicknames like Rooster.
Yeah. Jedi Knights is the cop out answer, but like I would be kind of interested in what's going on with Pink Panther.
I thought you might go towards King Rats. It's got the rhyming with your name.
Oh, that's fair.
There's some good ones. Wild Weasels, Mighty Mach 1. I think I would go Shadow 7. I feel like Shadow 7 is a pretty dope sounding one. It's like mysterious, cool. Sneaky, lethal.
Which one is the QBDB in?
QBDB is in the Loose Hogs, of course.
Of course.
They're letting him run wild, so he's in the Loose Hogs. And it comes with a number. I wonder what the number means. But maybe if anybody that listens to us is anything to do with the pilots and the Air Force.
I've noticed a bunch of different things with like perusing rosters so far this year. So like some schools will like link to NIL type stuff for the players.
Instagram handles.
Yeah, and like San Jose State, I think had like an NIL link for every player. I don't know exactly. I didn't click through.
It's like a GoFundMe.
Maybe, yeah. But like the thing that really I've noticed too much, which is like super annoying. I assume it's that Monopoly garbage company, Sidearm Sports, that like does most of these player pages. They have like the monopoly for like doing, or close to a monopoly for doing these roster pages for all these schools. When you load them up on mobile, so the experience used to be a lot better before this year. You like click, you go to Google, you Google like San Jose State 2025 roster or whatever, and you click through and it just brings up the whole roster. Now, and then like, of course, what I do is I have to like scroll through to like one or two players, see if this school abbreviates quarterback and running back and receiver, or if they use like QB, RB, WR, and then search for them all, and then try and like build my depth chart based on who's listed at what position. And it was like not really an annoying process. But now, of course, for whatever reason, what I've noticed that like 80% of schools this year is you go to the page, it loads up, you search, and the roster only loads for like an initial portion, and then you have to scroll and scroll and scroll to get the whole roster to load up. It's loading as you scroll. So I can't search for like QB initially. I need to like spend the extra like couple minutes to like load up the entire roster by scrolling down to the bottom.
I noticed that too. I was looking at rosters for something, and or to confirm who was on like different teams. And I tried searching like, what's going on here, and then and it takes forever. It's not fast at all.
Yeah,
Dude, this San Jose State page is pretty dope. Like, I clicked on Floyd Chalk. You can have him record a video for you. It's like basically Cameo for.
Is that the NIL link?
Yeah, basically it's like Floyd will record a video shout out. Floyd will post on social media. Floyd will attend your event. What does it cost for Floyd Chalk to attend? $45 for a meet and greet?
What's Emmett Brown cost? Because
do you think they have different prices per player?
Walker Egan, because I would like to pay Walker Egan to get a understanding of what went down in the quarterback room last year, and then do you think he would also spill the tea on this who's going to play slot this year, or do we have to pay for Matthew Coleman to like tell us like, hey, I'm getting the 180 targets this year, it's me?
That's a good question. Not an expensive player, $10 plus it says for Walker Egan.
For which one? For Coleman?
Oh no, for Walker Egan.
$10 for a starting quarterback?
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is, but they're straight hating on him.
Is this putting us down a path of like in like a couple of weeks we are the David Payne Purdom article of like fixing a match?
God, I hope not. I thought we were a fair use team. We weren't doing any of that.
Yeah.
You wanted Matthew Coleman. What is Matthew? This is incredible, by the way. Props to them. And we should make sure Thor is aware of this so he can do a cheap, quick purchase of a video. $10 for Matthew Coleman.
Listen, $10 for info is that's.
I wonder who else does this without. You'd have to literally search one by one. Do you think, or do you think? Yeah, because it's school based. It's not like
it caught my eye there. I don't think I've seen it at too many other places though.
Yeah, this is pretty awesome. Good. Yeah, they have their own. I wonder, maybe it's all powered by Open Doors. So I wonder if you like went to Open Doors, you might be able to see who participates. Might be easier that way. Well, we just went down a rabbit hole. I wanted to also ask you, speaking of Air Force, did you see Micah Davis is going to Southern Miss?
I think I did see that. What is he? Did it say what he's playing? Like what position?
I don't think so. Let's see here. Well, I was just shocked that he still had availability, like eligibility. Looks like receiver.
That makes sense. I mean, I was just asking because Ole Miss decided that he deserved more snaps over your boy Ulysses Bentley last year.
No. Well, mockingly, yes. Logan Diggs was my boy. He failed me. And now he's at Memphis, and he's about to feast, and we're not going to be able to take advantage of it on Underdog.
Who's at Memphis?
Isn't Logan Diggs at Memphis?
No, he's at Ole Miss still, and he has began a little bit of a hype. Dude, they took, obviously, of course, they're Ole Miss. They took a bajillion transfers at every position, but I feel like they need to pull another running back off of a school's roster going into next year, especially since the JUCO guy they brought in, Trey Hall, just ripped his leg apart or something. He's out for the year. But like how good do you feel going into the year, especially after what happened last year, running back with it's Logan Diggs, it's the Missouri kid, Kewan Lacey, and then the Akron guy, Jordan Simmons. I think that's it.
I mean, what an incredible collection of players. I don't like any of them. I was misthinking. My guy is not Logan Diggs. It's same but different. Rashad Amos. He's the one that's at Memphis.
Yes.
And failed me last year. How could I forget? Logan Diggs is the LSU transfer that we all knew was going to miss the year, basically, because of the knee surgery.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like they added all these guys, but it's like I could see why Kewan Lacey is like a cool addition. But like, are you giving him the keys to the car year one? Like, if I'm investing in any of them, it's either Diggs or him.
RB5 at Missouri last year.
Yeah. I don't know. That's tough. It is a position that you want, but I'm not impressed with any of them.
Where have you? So how many best balls have you done so far?
Just one.
Really? That's it.
Yeah, just the one carp P4, and we are full on another one, so we're about to start drafting on that one.
True. I was gonna, while we were on Southern Miss, I was interested in kind of what if Braylon Braxton's been going at all, or where he's been going in drafts?
Yeah, I have just dabbled in P4 stuff because it's like fairly more straightforward to what I've been looking at all off
Yeah.
season. Champ Series will give me enough of a G5 taste to. I got to prep for, man. G5. I feel like we don't know what's going on with G5 right now. Like, it feels like all the great, cool battles or like spots or battles. Like, I don't know. This is just anecdotal, but it feels like if you were to look at a full FBS draft, the first 5 rounds would be like heavy P4.
Which makes sense, especially when you're drafting at this time of year. I think it makes sense to appreciate and prioritize certainty over uncertainty. Considering, like, anecdotally, I would think that you look at our early drafts compared to our late ones, so many more zeros and just wasted picks. So if you can, like, Braylon Braxton, no doubt starter, right? That, like, Huff came out and said, like, there's no competition. Like, he's the guy. We're not playing that game. Like, obviously, once the season starts, if you don't play well, like, you could lose your job. But, like, we brought him in to start, and there, like, that shit was so weird with him in the offseason last year, and like how they started Stone Earl out of the gate at Marshall. But by the end of the year, he was like, you look at his game logs and like just watching a little bit of their stretch run, like he had that offense moving. And yeah, there's, I don't know what the right word is in terms like the upheaval in certain at Southern Miss, generally speaking, right? Like how many of the guys that they start last year were actually at Southern Miss? They brought in, like, I would think that they probably were a top 5, top 10 team in terms of taking transfers, but I think they're bringing in a lot of proven talent. Braxton, I think, high floor option, especially like across G5.
But how high would you take him? It feels like if there's a position where I don't really need any help, it's quarterback. Because I feel like we have.
I think he needs to be going in the teens, though.
I feel like that's probably fairly accurate, around QB 30-ish.
Yeah, I have no idea where he's going though.
I mean, there's been like 4 drafts probably, so that include all the different ones. What do you think? Slight shift. What do you think is like? What do you consider like the biggest edge right now? Do you have anything that you're like, either this season or this off season is like, this is my huge edge? Whether it's like a player, strategy, scoring format, is there something that you're like, I need to take advantage of it and do it a different way, or do it this way?
Macro level stuff. Just personally, I feel like throughout the year's progression, I'm leaving too much of my bankroll on the sidelines. So I am looking for like more ways to get more of my bankroll involved. So did you play any on Underdog last year? Did you play any like non-big tournament stuff?
You talking about like 10-mans or like weekly content? No, not really.
Not even the weekly. So the weekly intrigued me. By the time I really started thinking about it, though, they were winding it down. Like, they didn't do much for bowl season. But
are you talking about then like the preseason 10-man leagues and stuff?
Yeah.
No.
I think I'm gonna try and do those this year. But I have no idea how competitive they are, or if it's just like, okay, it's the same 10 of us in every one. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah. Would you do like 2-mans, 3-mans, or would you only do like 10 or 12 or whatever the bigger sizes?
I don't know. I'd like to crowdsource a little bit on like from people who actually played them last year, what the experience was.
Talk to Ethan. Ethan did a bunch of 2-mans.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Talking about it being like free money, and then he got smashed. I'm fairly sure. I don't know. I could be completely misremembering it. Ethan,
True,
when you listen to this, I apologize. But yeah, he'll have good input for you, whether it's good or bad or valuable for sure. It'll be something.
Yeah. In general, my plan is to play a lot more Underdog, but that is like a route I'm considering. I'm telling myself I'm probably gonna do less win total stuff, but I've already started to do a couple. but like I made like 4% ROI last year on win totals last year. So like, is that the best use of bankroll? I don't know.
I mean, if you have the bankroll, then 4% is fine for sure. It's just a matter of like, or could you have been using that money elsewhere? I probably would argue that you probably weren't spending that much weekly that you couldn't, like, that you could have used that money.
Yeah.
I know your win total bets, they're not like $1,000 per, like, so in that regard, yeah, like I think like if you sacrificed maybe let's say $1,000 across all your win total bets, that's probably fine. If you were talking like 10,000, then yeah, you probably could have used it elsewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, you can't take win total bets out of there's no way you're not going to bet win total bets.
Yeah. To some degree, that stuff kind of just comes organically with like, okay, I'm doing all this research for like CFB in general. Might as well peep these markets, see what's good, and like have some fun playing them.
Yeah, I mean, even like the stuff that I bet last year was, I think I like the cow bet. I had bad lines. I think I had like different than like what you and Kyle had, but like I think I won Washington, I won Utah State, which is the one that I got you on, remember? Because we all thought that what's his name would transfer, but he didn't, and it still hit. And then I think I pushed on Cal, or I maybe lost. Did Cal go over?
I think it was under.
I think it pushed for me because I think I got it at 6 and you got it at 6.5, right?
Yeah, that sounds right. Have I told you the two I've played this year?
I think we did the one. So tell me both. I'll let you know if that was.
Yeah, so the one that we talked about a few times is UNC, but now.
Right.
I played my max on FanDuel for Virginia. What
it's 5.5, right? So did you go under?
Yeah. But it was like what caught my eye was, so it was initially priced at plus 136 under, and then I bet it, and then I had a little more today.
What you say plus 136?
Yeah, at plus 124 today. And that got me to like the max I could bet on it or whatever. But so initially I was just like looking through, it caught my eye because it's like they don't feel like a guaranteed bowl team at all. Like it doesn't really feel like a coin flip. Look at their schedule, and did you see I tweeted about like they do the stupid thing where you're playing an extra conference game, but it's not a conference game.
Yeah, who is it against? Cal
UNC.
or UNC? That's
so I'm guaranteed a loss across that game, across both my bets, and then
at UNC too.
Yeah, they played the Zevies, which is interesting, and then they're
Washington State for those unaware. Yeah,
non-con's kind of a joke. Outside of that, Coastal and William and Mary, but
Coastal's not a gimme though. Like an opener, we're talking about Virginia.
Yeah,
like it's not like
I'm so down on that coaching staff. Like I'm down on both coaching staffs, but it feels like a game that Virginia wins by like 17.
I think Virginia wins, but it's definitely not like William and Mary. It's not close to William and Mary. You know, like, but yeah, William and Mary's a gimme. At NC State, that's promising for you.
Yeah.
Stanford at home, you wish that would be on the road because like West Coast would be helpful. Florida State, they can't be worse.
No. Oh, but this is the thing that so I initially bet like 2/3 of my action initially, and then I added like the rest of it today when Connolly dropped his SP plus, and he has like Virginia has like the 5th worst Power 4 team, and then directly below them at like 5th worst at like 83 or 81, and then 82 and 83 are Wake Forest and Stanford, 2 teams on Virginia's schedule. Or no, Wake Forest and Wazoo, and then 3 spots lower is Wake Forest or Stanford. So it's like you've got the 2 non-con that they probably win, Coastal and William and Mary. They'll win those. Then you've got 3 like. How confident can you feel about these 3 games where like these teams are clustered within 5 spots of each other, and then everyone else they play is like way above them in SP plus? And I think SP plus is like super noisy, especially now. Like how much? Like if you're like, if I just took it as like validation that I'm not a total idiot here. Like if he had Virginia in like the 50s, I'd be like, okay, maybe this probably is like accurately priced. But I think it's like I don't think it's accurately priced. I think that like I don't think you can with that schedule have a team and that SP plus rating have them at plus 124 to under 5.5.
The plus number is what's really surprising me. Hence my original, like, you got a plus 134 or 136.
If it was me, I would price that probably. So FanDuel doesn't play the game with they make everything the half win. So like Caesars and DK do not. They'll play like an even. But I feel like 5 even minus 110 would be like a lot more. That makes a lot more sense to me.
The schedule was fairly soft, but this is also not a good team. So like playing Wake Forest at home and playing FSU at home and Stanford at home is like as easy as that sounds. Isn't just like a straight win. Like playing Virginia Tech at home, like there are some games they could win, but I would agree with you largely. They play West Coast at Cal, which is nice for you amidst a 5-game streak right in the middle of it, which is solid.
Yeah.
They
don't have a lot of guaranteed losses, but like where are the guaranteed wins?
Exactly. It feels like my initial gut take on the schedule was a ton of coin flips, like a ton of 55-45s. And you get to root for my Hokies at the end of the season, so I like that.
Yeah. Of course, betting against Chandler Morris for the first time ever. Well, we know how this will go for me.
What do you think about this Philip Montgomery hire for Virginia Tech? Are you loving it like every single Hokie fan? Minus me.
The big question for me is I still have the awful aftertaste in my mouth of his Auburn tenure. But like you are very plugged in, very close, some would say an insider to the program. What was his level of control? Because like that's it. My recollection is the offense wasn't like what I expect from a Philip Montgomery offense, and what I expect is basically every play is starts with a halfback dive. It's kind of like the Gus offense. Every play starts with a potential halfback dive. The QB reads it and either hands it off or he doesn't, and we go from there. And what that results in is like a ton of carries for your RB1, ton of carries for your QB, and if he's like mobile, if not, but like, and a ton of like downfield passing stuff. But like my recollection of that Auburn year was just trash. Like nothing.
I don't think he really had much. I don't think he really did much with the offense.
Yeah.
I think those were Gus years, right? Or Harsin years, even worse. I think he did not have a whole lot of like, in my opinion, like a handle on the offensive philosophy. I will say he ruined Tulsa. Like Tulsa was super dope.
Wasn't he? So I think maybe I'm conflating what years were his tenure. Was he not the coach for the Dane Evans years?
I think he caught the very tail end of the Dane Evans years.
Who was there before?
I don't know. I think he joined in 2015. And so he was he had the final 2 years, I think, of Dane Evans.
Which were the good years.
But how good are you feeling about the fact that he went from 42.5 points per game for Tulsa in 2016, 29 in 2017, then 24, 26, 27, 26. And then I think he got fired, and then the next year they scored 31 points per game. It's not the Tulsa we grew up knowing and loving.
Yeah, my main takeaway from Philip Montgomery hire is potentially it provides us with like if he's gonna actually have control of the offense, they might actually run it in a way that like lots of usage for your running back, molding the offense. Like his offense, I think, is potentially very interesting for Kyron. So actually utilizing him in a way that's will exploit his strengths. So I don't know. Where you updated your rankings? Where do you have Kyron?
I have kept him about the same, which is like 22-ish. I need to see it a little bit. I got burned last year pretty bad.
Yeah.
He was hurt the whole year. I will say for Kyron, this is awesome because like if there was, I will say from the perspective of like fits, this is probably the best hire you're gonna get in the middle of February. Like Kyron is a good fit for the offense. I just don't know how good Montgomery is anymore. So we'll see. But it's great for the potential impact for fantasy for Kyron.
Great.
And they have two running backs, I think, that like in theory could do just fine with like in the ACC with that style of offense. So I think from a fantasy standpoint, it's a pretty decent win. I
saw Mox or Jared. It was probably, I think it was Jared, say that Selden might move to receiver. Is that true?
Selden is playing receiver.
Okay, good to know. So it's my dog Braden Bennett and Terrion, right?
Yep. Dude, do you remember 2016 Tulsa? James Flanders with 258 carries, D'Angelo Brewer with 264 carries.
Do you remember your boy Zach Line getting 500 carries at 2 yards a rush?
I mean, how do you?
Not Zach Line.
Zach Langer.
Zach Langer, yeah. Zach
201 for almost. This is about as incredible as it gets. 201 for 777 yards, 18 rushing touchdowns.
Dude, that's the dream.
3.9 yards per carry. Meanwhile, D'Angelo Brewer's rushing for 5.2. Just not getting the same usage. Kieris Garrett. Remember Kieris Garrett and Josh Atkinson? Those were great years.
Yeah.
Kevon Lucas. Isn't that Zach's boy?
Yeah.
Some great fantasy seasons. I just worried 10 years ago. It's 10 years ago.
I know. Why did you drop Zevi?
I dropped Zeddy because of the offense. I'm not a big fan of like I heard or listened somewhere, or I think I maybe talked to Jared, and it's just like the offense is very close to 50-50 run pass.
Yeah.
I did find it interesting. I think Baconfield posted he likes Zeddy, like quarterback 9 overall, like of all FBS. And he mentioned that the quarterback got like 15 rushing touchdowns. So that's positive. And I think Zebby could handle like short yardage rushing stuff like around the goal line.
Yeah.
But I just worry that the volume won't be there passing. It's just so unlikely that a quarterback runs for 10 plus touchdowns and he's like 6 foot 200. So I bumped him down.
That's fair.
Did you see I bumped up Marcel Reed?
I did. I was just thinking the other day that like I mean, who isn't intrigued by him? But I heard like absolutely no talk of him in our little neck of the woods on Twitter, or, like all off season. So I kind of made a note of like, oh, maybe I'll be in on him if the price isn't like if he's kind of falling into a bucket of like, hey, this is where I'm looking to start attacking quarterback. Like he would be very interesting.
He went 608 in this P4 only draft. Let's see. Like QB 15 or so.
When did refresh my memory? When did you do what are the specs on this P4 draft? When did this occur?
This was like 2 weeks ago.
Who hosted?
This was the Carp League.
Okay. Did
11
it feel
names that I don't necessarily recognize, not for better or worse, but Heath's in there, Corey's in there, Josh is in there.
Did it feel like you were drafting on an underdog or no?
No, for some reason, Fantrax is just Fantrax. Like I just don't ever get the underdog vibe, even though it's literally the same, except for I think the scoring format was PPR.
So you didn't find yourself thinking like thinking through the lens of like when you're drafting an underdog team, kind of from a value perspective or anything like that?
I mean, to an extent, like I waited on quarterback, like I hit running back early. I think at this point you're just drafting like guys that you know and feel good about. And if it's a running back or a receiver, it's whatever. More often than not, it's way more typically a running back, I feel like. But
Reed at 608 would be nice in like an underdog draft. I would be okay with that.
A lot of quarterbacks went in like the 4th, 5th, 6th. It'll be so interesting to see what the first couple of rounds are of underdog. Is like I don't know. I guess last year I didn't think everybody would go first or second round, and they all did. So maybe they just continue just because. I made comments about Holgerson being 10 years since he was last relevant, and I was corrected. So I will make a public apology to all those that I swayed incorrectly. But I also think that he's just not a good fit for Dylan Raiola. Like, I know that he's had, like, Will Greer was great with him, but like that was literally close to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like he had some great years with Clayton Tune, but that was, you know, that was G5 for one, and two, rushing stuff. I still think he's past his prime, but I did have to correct my factual mistakes.
It is, I will say, I don't know if when we're assessing a coach's impact on an offense, if we take into enough account across both NCAA and like NFL, how advantageous it can be when for someone to just be in a play caller position as opposed to like being a head coach. Like, look what our boy Cliff Kingsbury was able to do with Jane Daniels in year one, not having to do the head coaching stuff. Just call plays and just be awesome. Maybe Holgerson just running an offense, not having to do all that admin shit that he has no interest in doing, puts him in a good place to make that offense more successful.
That's probably a valid point. And also too, like, I guess like he did kind of suck with them last year, but it was limited action mid-season. Like, I don't think you can take anything away from that.
You can't draw
like,
much from that.
It's truly going to be on Dylan Raiola, like if he can improve. The problem with the situation is like there's no like get out of jail free card with Dylan Raiola's legs. You know, like if you have a runner,
he's never going to run.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, you could have a quarterback that slows his progression in terms of like being better passing, but he just can run, and so he can make up for it. Like, this is truly on, does this guy get better at throwing the football? But they have a great receiver room, like Dane Keaton, Isaiah Hunter, Barney. Like, I think that's like a really underrated receiver group.
Were you not impressed with him throwing the ball this year?
I thought he looked cool. I'm not saying that he didn't, wasn't a good passer. I mean, if he had like 7 of his 13 passing touchdowns in the first 3 or 4 games, that's a little alarming.
For him to actually be interesting, he like needs to be nice, and that's not happening.
He's not. I'm 100% not in. Like, I made the case for how much like he'd have to improve by like 15 passing touchdowns and like 1,000 passing yards for him to reach Carson Beck level of production. And that's still like quarterback 18 and B4. So like that's a really big leap. I think what the fantasy community is hoping for is like be good enough to like create a really cool receiver one. Maybe a tight end too.
The guy who you traded him to is going to call unclaimsies.
Unclaimsies, yeah. I don't know. It happens. David Amador has 3 seasons of eligibility left. Do you think he uses all 3, or do you think he just uses 2? Do you think he ruins it all, and after this year goes to like Texas Tech? Of
course, the path, right? Who is at UTSA longer, him or Jeff Traylor? Because Traylor doesn't want to be there. Every year he tries to get out. No one's having him.
I think after this year he could be out, just because I think they're going to have a great year. Like, I think Owen McCown. I honestly, it sounds crazy and maybe like dumb, but I feel like if you have a really good quarterback in the G5, a couple random playmakers at receiver or running back, like, you're going to win a bunch of games.
Yeah, for sure.
So I wanted to ask you your thoughts on the Washington State offense.
I've like no idea who's still there. They brought in some running back from Dakota or something. So
I think they brought in all 3 running backs from South Dakota State. Like,
is that where the coach is from too?
I think, yeah, South Dakota or South Dakota State, and he just pulled them all over.
Okay, and then what do you know what they have a receiver?
Dude, no idea.
They still have your boy Josh Meredith.
I think Josh Meredith is still there, but Carlos Hernandez is not. Thank you, Mike, for reminding me of that this past week. But everything else is like completely brand new.
Yeah. They lost and their whole thing was like they lost so many players to the portal, not just at the skill positions during that window when Dicker left to go to Wake Forest, right? So they're building a lot of things from the ground up. How can you not be intrigued to some degree from a fantasy perspective with like their projection of like not, hey, this isn't going to be a great team. You're going to need to play some catch up type deal. The schedule is inviting, largely, I think, right? They kind of, their schedule feels kind of, yeah, it's like basically an independent schedule, right? Like they do some of the fun independent things. It's like, why are you playing Sam Houston State at Sam Houston State in like week 6 or whatever? But like but then like, oh, well, we also have like this random Power 4 team in like week 12 type deal. But overall, I think this schedule is like very net positive. They'll probably be involved in a bunch of shootout type games by choice or not. And I don't know. It is an offense that is worth, I think, prioritizing investigation as the calendar progresses.
I think agreed, because I think Zevi is cool and good, and I think the schedule is so inviting that it's worth trying to figure that out. I feel like that's an unknown situation that is worth digging into and spending the time on, because of like those few things. You mentioned Jake Dickert to Wake Forest. He does not bring, obviously, Arbuckle along, but they get Rob Ezell, the offensive coordinator from, do you remember? South Alabama. Only 1 year, but he was on the staff before that. Are you interested in Wake Forest receivers because of that?
I probably should be. I've totally forgot that it was that they stole the South Alabama OC initially. I think Jared brought it up on one of the Chasing Natty, and maybe it was the one with Ethan where they were going over the draft. Because initially I was like, fuck, Demon Claiborne, now rolling with Dicker. Like, what has he ever done in terms of running backs? But like, it's a good point. Like, if we're getting the South Alabama offense, like that has been a very RB1 friendly offense, and Demon is awesome. So let's do this. But one of the, like you mentioned, one of the great things about South Alabama offense from historically is like, okay, go-to spot for running back production, but also their WR1 has been like a spot that is reliably like, hey, if you can figure out who this guy's going to be, like you're going to get points there. So kind of similarly, like we should prioritize investigating and trying to connect the dots to figure out what's going to happen there.
I just don't even know who. This is awesome. I don't even know who's on the roster for. They have that stupid. You have to like slide down to get all the players listed on the page. They have a ragtag group of receivers. They did get Carlos Hernandez, which is cool, but South Alabama is known for their slot receiver being great, right? That's what.
No, it's the opposite.
Well, last year slot receiver was great. Pritchett.
Was he slot?
He was slot. I just looked this up because I wrote up Carlos Hernandez for the the Campus to Canton supplemental guide. I'll double check if you don't believe me.
My recollection is he played.
I think the funny thing was 2 years ago, he's the small outside receiver, but this year I'll double check.
Okay,
he played slot. Yeah, 77% slot for Jamal Pritchett. Let's look at 2023. He played 73% out wide. And Lacey played slot. Wasn't Lacey the best one 2 years ago?
Yeah.
So it is slot then.
I think it's more. How long has that guy been there?
Well, he was the OC last year, and then before that, he was like the tight end coach or offensive line coach, something like that.
Maybe it's a little more find the best player type deal.
It might be, kind of like just whoever the best receiver is. I'm interested in Carlos Hernandez because this group is awful. Sterling Burkhalter, Micah Mays, Christian Green. I don't even know these guys. Who are these
guys? You guys stole my boy Donovan Green.
Tech did?
Yeah.
I guess we did, didn't we? Yeah. We're pretty thin. I was thinking like, who is even our receiver group? But yeah, it's Green, and it's I remember because Nate loves Donovan Green. It just unfortunately never happened.
He's the best.
an Aiden Green. Wow, we have 2 greens. Here we go. So yeah, this receiver group is wild. The problem here is, who do you think actually is the quarterback?
Dude, you beat me to it. So week 1, who starts, and then who are they running with in the playoffs?
Your favorite way to attack this? Yes. Give me who starts week 1.
Robbie.
You think so?
Yeah. You think it's Purdy?
I think it's Purdy.
Are you, dude? What are you buying the like off-season training hype videos or something?
No, he was like decent. His numbers okay. First of all, I never watched Charlotte, so I can't say for sure how I feel about Deshaun Purdy. But just looking at numbers, it's hilarious because he was like legit 50% passer, but 9 yards per attempt. And have you seen Omega Blake? His stats on the season?
Yeah,
like 25 yards per catch. Incredible. Like 800 yards, 8 touchdowns or something like that. I think it's Purdy, but I mean, I just have seen so much of Robbie Ashford. I don't know why anybody would start him when you have Purdy, who has 3 years of eligibility, when you have Hecklinski, who has 3 years of eligibility. Like, they'd have to be significantly worse to play the 6th-year senior who cannot throw a football.
Just a quick question. Which of the 3 has SEC experience?
Dude, years ago, the guy that I know that has like an Auburn connection said they want Ashford to be the quarterback, but he can't throw a football. Like, he can't complete a pass. Like, they are begging him to complete passes, but he cannot. He has SEC experience. That doesn't make the experience good.
His numbers, at least at South Carolina last year, were better throwing the ball than I expected. I know because I lost too much money betting against his passing yardage unders at least once. Yeah, sure, it could be Purdy, but I lean Ashford for the start of the season. My heart wants Hecklinski by the end of the year, but I don't know. Fortunately, both these schools that we've talked about in the last 10 minutes, Wazoo and Wake Forest, like 247 has amazing camp coverage of both of those.
Like, Wake is top notch. Yeah, and Washington State too, because it felt like we just back and forth got updates on Zevi versus Materia.
Yeah. The Wake especially, like the Wazoo, we got detailed stuff, but it felt like, you know how when you're reading like 247 write-ups, they're intentionally either withholding information or withholding opinions because of basically what's been dictated to them by the coaching staffs of like, hey, you can watch practice, but you can't say this, you can't speculate on that. I do get some of that from the Wazoo. Wake, I feel like they don't hold back at all. Like they'll just come out and say like, this is what we think. Now, new admin for both, so who knows what it's going to look like in terms of access, in terms of how much they're allowed to speculate and stuff like that. But historically, like, amazing coverage from both of those.
There's a Wake Forest beat writer or beat reporter or something that has just constantly been talking about the basketball coverage. And I'm like, this guy's like ruthless at times. Like, talk about like the bubble and how like this loss impacts it and stuff. I'm like, damn, he feels like a guy that if he's covering football, he's going to shoot me straight. He's not fluffing. And we'll see. We'll have to follow. I want to cap off maybe the show, unless you have something else, with Iowa running backs. I feel like we have not talked about this at all. And it's super interesting because obviously Caleb Johnson went from running back 3 on the depth chart to insane top 3 or 4 RB season, right? Like, does it matter? Like, are we going to get like another, like, let's not call it, Caleb Johnson level season. Do you think we'll get a great season out of one of these guys?
Yeah. I feel like it's a trope to just say like going from RB3 to top of the depth chart. Are you saying that in terms of like, oh, he was listed at RB3 on the week 1 depth chart? Because if that's the case, he was suspended for the first half of the first game. Like, it was that depth chart was put together through the lens of him being suspended for that first game. And then both what took place on the field in the second half of that game and just like, okay, this is what, like, the leading up to the second game, the resetting of that depth chart, I think, just reflected everything outside of the suspension that occurred throughout the progression of the offseason. I think he was always like RB1, and they just had him as
They
RB3.
just put him at the third spot because
He's
they didn't
suspended.
think.
Like we see that shit all the time, right? Guys listed as an or because he's hurt. Guy moves down to RB or like this backup spot because he's hurt or suspended. Like that is not uncommon at all.
Okay. So who do you think is the running back? Is it Mouton or is it Jason Patterson?
Is it lazy to just say I don't care because Johnson was like that good and his skill and ability led to outlier usage from in terms of how that program uses running backs?
No, because that answers the question. My part of the question was like, and does it matter, right? Like, does it matter who wins the job? Because they're not going to beat Caleb Johnson and get 30 touches a game. So it doesn't, the impact is nowhere near the same as it was last year.
Yeah, that's where I think initially lean. Like Molden doesn't strike me as anything special. It was annoying that he did get enough run to take some of my money in bowl game when I kind of thought that he wouldn't get enough.
He took your money. He did not take my money. I bet over on him and the other guy, Patterson.
Oh,
both hit.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not overly interested in because I have a tough time seeing any running back really getting like anything close to Caleb Johnson usage.
Are we pouring one out for Iowa tight ends?
Never. We're always back.
Okay, so who is it? Ostrenga? Ortworth? A different guy?
Lachey's gone, right?
Lachey's gone.
He deserved better.
He did. He got injured, and then he just didn't feel the same. And then he just had bullshit at quarterback for 2 years.
I wonder where he goes in the NFL draft because, like, he's gonna be awesome.
You think his combine's just gonna be special?
No, but I think like when he gets a chance in the NFL, he's gonna be like a really good player.
I'm gonna note it down for my drafts then. Supplementals.
It's interesting. Their quarterback room is like, okay, this is like actually legit now. They bring in that guy Gronowski, right? I think they bring back Sullivan, who like exceeded my expectations so many, like multiple times, both when he got starts at Northwestern in 2023, and then I didn't like there was a decent amount of hype for how he looked and how they expect him to look in Iowa going into last offseason. Then he actually went out and like played well enough. So like that's a solid backup. But all that to say, like there is steadiness in the QB room that should support tight end if like Iowa actually like does the Iowa thing and builds a quality tight end. I assume Ortworth's terrible, but I don't know. Like, is that guy actually anything?
He feels slow to me, but I don't know. They kind of
Ostrenga, like I don't know. I don't get vibes from him either that he's like anything special.
Agreed.
But I think
you forgot by the way that Hank Brown transferred in Iowa.
Yeah, I did. That's on me.
Did they have a type, and it's 6'3" or 6'4" white guys.
Yeah.
They have 5 quarterbacks on the roster. It's 6'4", 6'4", 6'4", 6'3", 6'2", true freshmen. They have a type.
But we should always be, if we're trying to hunt tight end production, we should always be kind of hunting, poking around Iowa and just seeing what's good.
My only concern is that none of these guys feel athletic. When you look back at like the Iowa tight ends of past that were incredible, like think about how athletic and like fast those guys were. Fant, Kittle, my guy Laporta. Feels like you have to have a certain level of athleticism to survive in Iowa's offense.
Yeah. I think the good thing is because of just historically how much the offense is lean on tight end, it won't be like, when you're like reading camp reports and or just scouring for information, you find like a writer that's written up like what they expect to see or like what they are seeing, and you're like, oh, how are they not mentioning the fucking receiver the battle or whatever? And like I think we will get writing that about Iowa tight end, positive or negative, just because like it's been a position that has been so paramount at Iowa in the past. Like we'll know as the offseason progresses how things are trending.
The nice thing is that they are always on the field. Like you never have to worry about a guy like a tight end not like disappearing. Like these guys are on the field nonstop. And because the run game is so important, typically I feel like tight ends are great in play action. So it's helpful. Any final bits of wisdom before we wrap up, Andrew?
Yes. Well, we have a few minutes. So let's play my favorite game. Who is, in your opinion, the QB2 in Conference USA this year, assuming that Maverick MacGyver is QB1? Should I wet your beak and like list off some names?
List the teams. Give me the teams.
Delaware, FIU, Jacksonville State, Kennesaw State, Liberty, Louisiana Tech, Middle Tennessee, Missouri State, New Mexico State, Sam Houston State, and UTEP.
Ethan Vasco? Isn't he at Liberty?
Yeah, you can make that argument, I think, fairly easily.
Who was taking over to be Phil Longo's head coach? Because that feels interesting.
Who's going to be QB for Sam Houston?
Mm-hmm.
I assume Hunter Watson's back. He didn't portal.
I would be interested in Hunter Watson then as well. Like I probably would lean Hunter Watson over Vasco then. So, but those aren't the two names you're thinking of. You're not going to say Malachi Nelson. So who is it?
I'm very interested in Malachi, but
I know you are not. I know you are, but who is the number 2 guy you were thinking of?
I didn't really have one in mind. I think it sucks so bad that what's that phrase, like ships crossing in the night or whatever, Gavin Wimsatt and Rich Rod, like, oh my goodness, like first round Gavin Wimsatt, we were so close, but now he like now their coaching staff is like some dusty like retread from Alabama or Auburn or something who's just gonna like get fired in a year or two. From a program perspective, not necessarily like, yeah, maybe I could buy in from a win total perspective at a low number, but like I think they're trending up. New Mexico State, like they have a real quarterback this year, and I don't know. Like I think that I'm just interested, maybe not in like the QB specifically in fantasy, but I think that offense could be ascendant in year 2 under Tony Sanchez, who like is one of like I have so much respect for you as a play caller and coach and program if like we actually know what you're going to do, and like that dude is just going to run the shit out of the football. But
talk about Parker Awad, are you?
No, they have a real quarterback this year. They have Logan Fife, who the guy who was like backup at Fresno for a while and then went to
he survived. You love a Fresno State quarterback, so
yeah, he went to Montana or Montana State or something, and now he's found his way into the CUSA playing on Tuesday nights in October. I am so interested to see what that offense will look like with a QB that can actually throw football. Like, does that open up actual run lanes? Like, they were successful running the football last year when there's no way anyone actually expected them to ever throw it. But now, like, they lost. Mike Washington went to Utah, but like they still have Seth McGowan back for year 18 from, if you count from like when his freshman year actually took place. And their running back room is so fun.
I was just gonna say you are not gonna believe who is the next player, like the next running back.
I think I know who you think it is, but I have him as RB3, Dominic Richardson.
Richardson, good God.
But you know who I have as RB2?
Dijon Staley.
Yeah.
Stanley?
What happened to that guy? He was so cool the first couple of weeks last year, and then all of a sudden, like, yeah, we're just gonna go back to giving Michael Bernard all the usage. But like that dude was breaking off 60-yard plays like every other drive for a little while.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. Like when I think about the tides of CUSA, some of these teams I think are just destined to like get even worse. But I think that we've seen the floor of New Mexico State, and I think I'm ready to see them move up a little to maybe the middle bottom tier of CUSA. But getting back to the quarterback, I'll go Malachi as QB2. I want to believe in that UTEP offense. I want to believe in Malachi.
More power to you. Someone's got to do it. Someone's got to bear that cross.
Vasco's a good pick, though.
I think consensus would be Vasco. I think I like Watson more, but that's like
how can you not love Hunter? I think there is some risk with him that like Longo, like he doesn't exactly. I don't think his offense necessarily conforms to the Hunter Watson. Hey, let's snap the ball, check to see if the receiver's open for half a second, and then I'm gonna take off and do my thing. They also brought in the Wisconsin quarterback that he recruited as a true freshman last year. Guy didn't get any run, but like I don't know how quickly how quickly do you just kind of move out from Hunter to that dude if he doesn't pick up your offense?
I think he's a fairly respectable quarterback, Watson. So I think he'll be fine. I mean,
I would like to believe.
Come on.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's another weekend edition of Burning the Rusher. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll be back when we're back. How about that? Enjoy, and we'll catch you next time, guys.